This week, the HPT is back at the home of the $1 million prize pool at the Golden Gates Casino in Blackhawk, Colorado. This once sleepy little mining town is today the gaming mecca of the Mile High State, and when the HPT rolls into town, the stakes get even higher. Another $1 million prize pool has been built by over 650 players, with the top prize of over $235,000 going to the last player standing.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
What a week it has been here in the Rocky Mountains in Blackhawk, Colorado, just outside of Denver. Hello everyone, I'm Fred Bevel. This is the fabulous Maria Ho, and we are at one of our premier stops on the HPT at the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor in Blackhawk. And once again, players from all over the United States have gathered to create the 5th consecutive $1 million prize pool.
We had 716 players gather on all our day ones, all trying to become the next HPT champion and take home the top prize of over $236,000. This week, we'll watch the final 9 players from this monster field play in the biggest poker game of their lives. None of these players have played for this kind of money on this big of a stage.
The crew here at the Golden Gates Casino has always given these players a great experience, and the 707 that have already been sent to the rail all wish they could be in one of these seats competing for the cash and the championship.
But I get the feeling some of the 9 that are here were meant to be here. Ken Cordova will be able to quit his second job with the money he wins today. Garth Thompson will put his winnings towards his kids' college fund. And Richard Monroe will use this money to help him in retirement. Real
people, unreal money. That's what we do here on the HPT. Everybody at this final table is getting a fantastic payday, but it's the top prize of over $236,000 and the championship that they all want. Let's take a look at the payouts and the starting chip counts, and we'll get right to the action.
And once again, Golden Gates does not disappoint with another huge prize pool, making it the 5th consecutive $1 million prize pool we have here. First place is going to take home a whopping $235,000, and everybody at this final table is guaranteed at least a 5-figure score of $21,000 and change.
Good money for sure. Here is what everybody is starting with tonight.
We have our chip leader, Keith Love, with about 24% of chips in play, roughly $5.3 million. Kevin Eister with $4.2 million right behind him. David Goodfriend, which we've seen at another HPT final table, is 3rd in chips with just over $3 million.
Blinds at this final table are starting off at $30,000 and $60,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. Action is going to start with Garth. He and Matthew in the 6 and 7 seat quickly fold over to the 1 seat of David Goodfriend. Now over to the 2 seats of Alex Greenblatt. No one's getting anything to play here in the first hand of this final table. But we have Ian Gleisenfer on the button. Thought he looked like he was going to make a move for a second. So first hand, Maria, blind versus blind.
Keith Love in the small blind looks down at Queen Jack suited. That's definitely a playable hand from the small blind.
Betting into a random hand of the big blind. You for sure think he's going to raise here, and that is what he's going to do. Makes it $185,000 to go.
Keith raises to a little more than 3 times the big blind. I think I would have liked to see him min raise here.
And Richard Monroe puts the hammer down. He is going to go all in, and it's a quick fold by Keith. You see that sometimes, blind versus blind. The small blind's just going to raise it up to see where he's at, and the big blind's just going to hammer down and go all in.
Yeah, but I think an all-in with Richard's 31 big blinds is a little too big of a shove. He probably would have wanted a little bit of action, and he probably should have just 3-bet him, but either way, he takes down the pot.
Action's folded around to Alex in the 2 seat, and he's going to wake up with pocket aces.
120.
Going to raise it up, makes it $120,000.
Alex just min raises it, hoping to reel a couple players in.
Well, let's see if Ian is going to be one of his customers. He chooses not to. He folds. Keith Love now folds over to Richard Monroe.
Richard looks down at King Jack offsuit and he seems interested, but he's going to be a little bit on the tighter side and fold.
And now over to Garth in the big blind.
Garth looks down at Ace King in the small blind, and that could smell trouble, as we could see Alex has aces.
Garth is a 44-year-old airline captain from Fort Collins, Colorado. Plans to use his prize money for his kids' college fund. Seems pretty frivolous to me.
Garth announces a raise. Looks like he's going to be 3-betting Ace King from the small blind to $350,000.
Can't blame Garth for 3-betting with Ace King here. The big blind's going to fold. And now back to Alex with aces.
Garth started this final table with 22 big blinds, so I feel like he's pretty committed to this hand at this point.
Alex getting a little inventory on what Garth has in his stack. Is the hoodie and the sunglasses thing always going to be a part of poker? Are we going to get away from that one of these days?
I think it's just a little too comfortable for a lot of people to be able to hide behind the hoodie and the sunglasses, so I think that it's here to stay, unfortunately, but that's just my opinion.
Alex flat calls the raise from Garth here. He's going to slow play the aces. Why not? Your head's up. Here comes the flop.
The flop is 8-2-7, a couple of diamonds. Garth, unfortunately, or fortunately, didn't connect with this flop. Let's see if maybe he could smell out a rat here.
And Garth out of position is going to go all in. Alex makes the snap call, and Garth is going to see the bad news that he's way behind. Doesn't even have a draw here.
He needs running kings in order to win this hand. Otherwise, he will be eliminated in 9th place.
Maria, we see this a lot all over the tournament poker world. Do you think he overplayed Ace King here?
I think if Garth was a little bit deeper, then maybe it could be considered an overplay of Ace King, but he did only come in with 22 big blinds, and with that stack size, you can't really be folding Ace King.
The 10 on the turn means Garth is drawing dead. He will be our 9th place finisher, going home with a great prize of a little over $20,000.
Unfortunately for Garth, it was just a cooler early on here at this final table. More poker when we come back from Colorado.
Welcome back to the HPT here in beautiful Blackhawk, Colorado at the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor. 8 players remain at that televised final table. Let's head back inside and we'll send it over to Freddie and Maria.
And here are some updated chip counts for you. Keith Love still holding on to that top spot. He's moved up to just over 5 million. With the elimination of Garth Thompson, Ken Cordova becomes our short stack with 840,000.
Ian and Ken under 20 big blinds here, Maria. That's a shove stack, especially with the blinds at 30 and 60,000 with a 10K ante. Trying to hold on. These pay increases as you move up the ladder pretty significant here in Colorado.
Absolutely, and I think these players should be paying attention to the pay jumps and ICM considerations at this point.
There you go again with your big poker acronyms, ICM. Explain that to everybody.
ICM means independent chip model, and it's about converting your chip stack into a dollar amount. So as a short stack, if there's a stack shorter than you might want to take that into consideration before you shove a hand, because you might want to ladder.
There you go. Richard raises it to 160,000 with pocket eights, and look at this. The action is going to heat up here. Ken Cordova wakes up with pocket queens, and he is one of our short stacks.
Ken is indeed our short stack with just 14 big blinds, so I think he should just be 3-bet shoving here, as if you were to 3-bet raise, that might actually look really strong and send some red flags to Richard. However, a call is nice too as well. Maybe somebody will squeeze behind him and he'll get some extra dead money in there.
Kevin's going to make the call with ace-9. And so with that, we are three-handed going to this flop.
The flop is 7-5 king rainbow. No improvement to Kevin or Richard. However, maybe Ken might be kicking himself now for slow playing, as there is an overcard to his queens, and that might give him some pause.
No bet on the flop from Ken either, as all the players check. The turn brings it to a diamond. Nothing to really be scared at, but I'm expecting Ken to make a move here soon.
And I think now Ken does have to bet his hand, see where he's at. I'm expecting Kevin to fold and maybe Richard to look him up. Ken bets 175,000 to test the waters.
And Kevin in the 9 seat did fold. We're back to Richard, who was the original raiser here pre-flop with the pocket eights. He is going to flat call this.
There's only one overcard to Richard's pocket pair as well, and the way that Ken played it was a little tricky, so I think that's why Richard made the call there.
10 of spades falls on the river. Ken looking to get some more value. This pot just creeping under $1 million in chips. He is going to check to see if Richard will do the bidding for him. I can't see Ken laying this hand down even if Richard puts them all in. He started this hand, as you said, with just 14 big blinds.
And now it looks like Richard might be turning his eights into a bluff here. I think Ken feels a little bit bad about slow playing now because it seems like he put himself in a tricky situation. It's going to cost him over half his stack to make this call here.
Well, let's see what Ken decides to do here. He was trying to slow play the queens to get the most he could out of this pot. He's got a raise coming from Richard here. Only one overcard to be afraid of. And Maria, with that second diamond falling on the turn, do you put Richard on a king there? You think he would have defended his hand a little bit?
I think that the way that this hand was played, it's hard for Richard to have a king here. I think as the open raiser, if he did have a king 3 ways, Richard would have just c-bet instead of check it over. So I think Ken missed an opportunity to make a good call, but he also probably shouldn't have checked the river. I think he could have bet the river for value. It's pretty hard to put Richard on a king here.
Well, Ken does lay the hand down. Richard pushes him off the winner. And I'm sure Ken, watching this at home along with everybody else, is like, oh, he was bluffing me. Blinds moving up at this final table. They're now 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. And action will start with a 2-seed of Alex. He is going to fold as we move around the table. It's pocket aces again.
They are just going around here at this final table.
This time Ian has the aces, and he is also one of the short stacks, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays this hand.
160.
It's a min raise.
And that's absolutely what he should be doing. Of course, because of his short stack size, people are going to raise their eyebrows at this min raise. It looks very, very strong, but there's really no way around it. That's what he has to do.
Kevin Eister in the 9th seat wakes up with pocket jacks.
Now this is just going to be a cooler because Kevin's absolutely going to re-raise Ian's stack size here with jacks, but he's not going to like what he sees.
Re-raise now by the 9 seat. 360.
Well, here's Ian's chance to just get them all in the middle. Do you go all in right now, Maria, or do you slow play the aces since your head's up?
I think it's obvious once Kevin 3-bets Ian's stack size that Kevin has a hand he's not going to fold to an all-in, so Ian should just move it all in here.
And that's exactly what he does. He is all in, 640,000 to call. Kevin makes the call, and he is going to see he's dominated, a 4-1 dog as we go to the flop.
Ace of clubs for the 3-seat of Ian. Go ahead, Chase, and see the flop, please.
Here comes the flop for Kevin's tournament life.
Flop is 5, 8, 5, 2 diamonds. Very innocuous for Ian's aces. Kevin's going to need to hit a jack if he wants to eliminate Ian in 8th place.
Let's go ahead and see that turn card, please.
A diamond on the turn would give us a sweat, but it is a 10 of spades. So a jack and only a jack for Kevin to suck out here and eliminate Ian from this final table.
Go ahead and see the river card, please.
And the river is a deuce of clubs, and Ian is going to double up with what I like to call emergency aces on the short stack.
Emergency aces, I like that a lot. And with that double up, Ian now has a little over 2 million in his stack. Maria, the short stack's not so short anymore. More poker from the Golden Gates Casino here in Blackhawk, Colorado, right after this. Welcome back to the HPT from beautiful Blackhawk, Colorado at the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor. We got a lot of poker action happening down on the floor. Let's get right to it.
As you can see in the updated chip counts, not much movement here as Keith, Kevin, and Alex are still keeping their 1, 2, and 3 spots. Matthew Colvin and Ken Cordova are short stacks, both with under 15 big blinds.
Blinds continuing at this final table at 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. And it looks like Richard Monroe will be under the gun in this hand. A little off his hole, Ken. Looks like pocket 4s to me.
Either that or he's real loose from under the gun here.
Richard Monroe, 62 years old, from Sedalia, Colorado. He's retired, plans to use his money to help along with retirement and give some money to charity. That's very nice. I give money to charity. It's called Feed Fred Fund.
He makes it $175,000 to go with pocket fours. Thank gosh.
And Matthew Colvin with pocket jacks is going to go ahead and 3-bet all in.
And Matthew, with only 14 big blinds, has no choice but to just shove all in here with jacks.
To the button and Alex. Alex folds now over to Ian in the 3.
Action be folded around to Alex. He's going to throw Queen Jack suited into the muck, and Ian is going to fold as well.
And if I were Richard, I would probably fold fours in this spot. 14 big blinds is a little too much for Richard to call with fours, and I don't think Matthew has any pairs worse than fours in his shoving range. And if he had 2 overcards, the worst it could be would be ace-king or ace-queen suited. So I think Richard is smart to let this one go.
Richard showing some discipline here. A lot of players would have went ahead and called that. Take a flip to eliminate a player if he thought he was flipping and move up the money ladder.
I think there are just a lot more hands in Matthew's 3-bet shoving range that has Richard dominated, so he most likely wasn't going to be flipping in that situation, and I think he sniffed that out.
Pocket deuces are folded into the muck here pre-flop. His action continues to fold around to Alex in the 2-seat. Wakes up with a dog of a hand, K9.
And this is definitely a raisable hand here from the button.
It's almost like these players can hear you. You just had Richard fold fours. Alex is raising here to 160 with King 9.
Maybe people are learning something after all from my commentary.
They should be, for sure. Keith Love is going to fold, and now we're over to Richard. And Richard squeezes ace-5 suited. He's going to make the call from the big blind.
And I think that Richard was smart to just call from the big blind instead of 3-bet.
And the flop is queen 4-3 with a couple of clubs. No one improves here. Richard ahead with ace-high right now. He's going to check over to Alex, who is the original raiser here pre-flop.
Richard also does have a gut shot. Alex is going to go ahead and continuation bet, though, to $210,000. And let's see what Richard does.
Richard not buying it. He's going to float him here on the flop. Let's see if he makes a move on the turn here.
Turn is the 8 of diamonds. Still no improvement for either player. Now, I think if Alex is willing to fire a second bullet here, he might get rid of Richard in this hand.
Kind of half expected to Richard to make a play here on the turn since he flat called the flop bet.
I think Richard was hoping he could slow down Alex, maybe get him to check back on the turn. But unfortunately, Alex is going to put him to the test here and bet again on the turn.
Well, Richard does have the best of it right now with just ace high. Alex, with just pure heart, is trying to win this pot. Over 1.3 million in the middle right now.
I like Alex's bet size here. It kind of looks like he wants Richard to call. It's not too big, and I think Richard is just going to let this one go.
And the second bullet is going to work as Richard lays it down, and Alex is going to scoop a nice sized pot. Tenacity works in the game of poker, especially in position. Moving on to the next hand here as we wind down to a champion. $235,000 on the line to the next HPT champion. As Maria said earlier, our 5th consecutive $1 million prize pool, which is 2.5 seasons on the HPT.
That's quite amazing, and these players know that they have a lot on the line here. Everybody seems to be playing a pretty solid game.
Alex this time wakes up with ace-queen offsuit. And folks that have come to Golden Gates here and played the HPT event really are in awe of the staff here at Golden Gates. This is just a 20-table poker room. We do 4 day 1 flights, so everyone has a chance to get in and play.
Alex raises with ace-queen to $160,000. Ian, right behind him, looks down at pocket tens.
I'm all in.
And he's going to get them all in the middle with pocket tens.
And Ian has about 25 big blinds, and I like that play from him. I think his hand's a little bit too strong to be folding, and he definitely doesn't want to just flat here and let other people in behind him. Now Alex has a decision. I think if I were Alex, I would fold, though, because with 25 big blinds, Ian probably has a pretty strong hand to 3-bet shove over him with people to act behind him.
Alex is going to lay down ace queen. You know, Maria, one of the perks to my job is I have great professionals like yourself and Greg Raymer. Greg taught me about stack sizing, and 20 to 25 big blinds is a prime 3-bet shoving stack.
As play continues and the blinds keep going up, these players are approaching that perfect 3-bet shove stack, which means there's plenty of action to come. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the HPT here from Blackhawk, Colorado, and the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor.
Thanks, James. And as you can see, Keith Love still holding strong to that top spot. He's definitely had a very consistent final table thus far. Matthew Colvin and Ken Cordova still struggling a little bit here at this final table. Matthew only has 17 big blinds, while Ken is practically on wide support with 11.
Alex Greenblatt in the 2 seed had the biggest swing up with over 1.2 million added to his stack since we last checked. Blinds continue at 40 and 80,000 with a 10K ante. And look at this, Pocket Jacks makes another appearance at the final table, this time in the 9 seat of Kevin. Action's folding around the table. Kevin, 24 years old, described himself as a recreational gambler, but what a year he's had, over 1.2 million in career live cashes, has a WPT under his belt. And he is going to get a call from Keith with Queen 10. Boy, that's a hand that I can't get a ray from either, Maria. You might want to help me out there.
Oh, and Matthew here wakes up with ace queen, and having only a 17 big blind stack decides that this is a good enough hand to shove all in with. And obviously, seeing as how Kevin has jacks, he will be making this call against Matthew. I do see why Matthew would be shoving in this spot. It looks like a great squeeze spot considering there's a lot of dead money. And on the off chance that Kevin did raise light, Matthew still does have fold equity. Unfortunately, Kevin did raise in early position, and he didn't seem to be too active at this final table. So Matthew's going to have to get lucky and hit one of his 2 overcards. However, we did see that he folded out a queen. Let's see what happens.
Matthew's tournament life on the line here as he's hoping to hit an ace or a queen right in the window.
Queen in the window, 5-5 to follow with 2 spades. Kevin does have the jack of spades, so he's going to look for a jack or running spades in order to win this hand.
Matthew hoping his top 2 pair will hold up as the turn brings a 9 of diamonds. The outs are dwindling for Kevin. Now it's a jack and only a jack to suck out and eliminate Matthew.
And the river is a 5. Unfortunately, Kevin's going to lose this hand. He's going to double Matthew up in the process.
Both players did what they were supposed to do. The deck just decided to give Matthew the win here. Maybe it's because he's wearing a Golden Gates hat. I guess if you're going to support the home casino, you're going to get a little lucky at the final table. Blinds continuing on at 40 and 80,000 as we are 8-handed on our way to our next champion from Colorado here at the Golden Gates Casino.
I will start with Keith. He's going to fold.
So far, this play at the final table has been pretty conservative. I don't think anybody's been getting out of line. I do like the solid play in the beginning, but I'm hoping to see people switch things up.
A fold by
Action folding around here. Queen 9 suited in the small blind for Alex. He's going to fold, and it's pocket 8s in the big blind of Ian.
I'm actually surprised Alex folded Queen 9 suited there. I think I would have liked to see Alex call with Queen 9 suited there from the small blind. I think it plays well multi-way after the flop, and if he does call, then I think the big blind would have come in as well.
On to the flop we go.
Flop is 3-3-5, couple of spades there. Ian is still ahead with his 8s, and it looks like a pretty good flop for him as he has an overpair to the board. He's going to check it over to Matt, who's going to c-bet to 225K.
Matt has a gut shot straight draw.
And I think the best play for Ian here is to just call. He doesn't really want to raise and bloat this pot from out of position. He's not quite sure where he's at yet. So I think in the spirit of small ball, Ian should just call.
And a call has been made by Ian.
And that's exactly what he does. On to the turn we go. It brings a 3 of clubs. And now Ian has a full house.
He has 3s full of 8s, meaning Matthew's gut shot is now meaningless. If it were to come, Matthew's going to need an ace if he wants to be able to win this pot.
The river is a 10 of clubs, so Ian has the best hand. Let's see if he puts out a value bet here or checks over and see if Matthew wants to try to bluff the river.
I think the better play here would be to value bet. I think that once Matthew checks behind on the turn, it's very unlikely he's going to bet on the river, and he might call him with ace high, which he does.
Ian puts out a little bet. Matthew pays him off, and just like that, over $1.5 million chips going into the young man's stack here. Ian started day 2 in 114th position out of the 160 players that started day 2. Right now, he is sitting pretty at this final table.
was good.
Maria, if you're around this crazy game long enough, you're going to have some great stories. Well, few have as many great stories as the legend himself, Doyle Brunson. It is that time for A Poker Life with Doyle Brunson, brought to us by our friends at Ace Play Poker. And this week, Doyle tells the story of playing poker with a West Virginia moonshiner.
You know, I don't really condone those guys that were doing it, because they were in the gambling business. They couldn't win honestly. I mean, if I hadn't been able to win, I mean, I don't know what I would have done. I mean, would I have joined out with them? I don't know. I'd like to think not, but again, when people are cheating, they play so bad that I could actually go in those games and beat them, because I knew what they were doing, and so I would, just lay in wait for what they were trying to do, and I'd cross them up. And I know you're going to come to that, but that's when a lot of trouble came over that because I wouldn't do it. I would never join out with them.
Who's going to be the next HPT champion and take home almost $236,000? Come back, because you don't want to miss it.
Thanks for coming back to the HPT. Over $235,000 going up top tonight.
And Keith Love continues to steadily climb and increase his chip lead. He's just over $6.2 million now. Kevin Eister has had quite a fall from his second place spot from when we last saw the updated chip counts. Richard Monroe and Ken Cordova working with some short stacks.
Over $235,000 on the line here. Maria, I don't care what level of poker you play. When that kind of money is on the line, you're going to think about every decision.
Absolutely. I think the players definitely have that in the back of their mind, which could account for this very solid play here so far.
Alex in the 2 seat wakes up with the best hand in poker. My hand, King Queen, Mom and Dad. He's going to min raise it.
Fred, I cannot believe after all the cash game stories you tell me about, you still haven't learned your lesson about this hand.
Ian is going to make the call with ace 10. Bad call. King Queen's already the nuts. King Jack in the hand of Matthew Colvin.
He's going to go ahead and make this call from the big blind.
All right, 3 players, 2, 3, 7.
And the flop is 10-4-4 rainbow.
Ian's going to pull ahead with top 2 pair. Matthew checks over to Alex, the original raiser in this hand.
As expected, Alex looks like he's reaching for a continuation bet.
That's a wager of 200,000 chips.
200,000 is the price to see a turn. Over to Ian with the best hand right now.
I think for Ian, flatting here is the best option. There's not a lot of turn cards that could hurt his hand.
Matthew's going to fold the King Jack. On to the turn we go.
Let's go ahead and see the turn card, please. Turn card.
The turn is the 5 of spades. Alex still hasn't connected with this flop, but as we saw earlier, he double barreled and it worked, so that might be in his mind right now, and he might try to go for that again.
He is not going to do that. He's going to check over to Ian.
And I expect to see Ian value bet this hand on the turn. I like about a half pot bet here. He bets a little less than that, 370,000.
And I don't really see Alex continuing on in the hand here unless he gets really frisky with some kind of a check raise. But I don't think he has the stack to do that. Yep, he's going to have to just lay it down, and this is one of the few times in poker you will see King Queen not be the winner.
All the other times is when Fred's playing it.
Exactly. Maybe it's just when I'm holding it. I don't know. So Ian stacking some much-needed chips. He had what Maria calls emergency aces a little while ago to double up, and his stack has been growing ever since. Blinds continuing at 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. This time action will start with Richard Monroe.
And a fold by Rich Monroe.
As action folds, give you a little background on Alex Greenblatt. He's been making some moves at this table. He's 22 years old from Atherton, California. Plans to play more poker with his winning. Has about 30 grand in career winnings, including 2 wins here at Golden Gates Casino and some of their other side tournaments they do throughout the year.
Kevin in seat 9 with King Jack, raises from the hijack to 160,000.
Now we're over to Keith Love, my favorite name at this table. If your last name is Love, you can't be a bad guy.
No, it looks like he still might be looking for love. He's not wearing a wedding ring.
Leave it to you to notice that.
That's the first thing every woman should look for. Ladies, pay attention.
If Keith takes down first place tonight with a top prize of $235,000, I believe he becomes more attractive.
If you are a gold digger,
The flop comes 4-10 ace rainbow, so no improvement for either player here. Kevin picks up a gut shot straight draw.
and I think Keith is starting to use his image. As you can see, he's leading out here, which, like I've called in the past, a donk bet. And I think Kevin's going to start noticing that maybe Keith isn't quite as tight as he seems. Kevin's going to go ahead and call here.
The turn comes another ace, making it a little bit harder to sell the ace that he was representing on the flop. But a nice second bullet might make Kevin a believer.
I think if Keith wants to try to go for this, he needs to bet a little bit more on the turn. He makes it 450,000, and Kevin quickly folds. I think if I were Kevin, I would have given it a little more thought. King Jack could very well be the best hand, but I think at this point, Kevin still doesn't think Keith is capable of some of the moves we have seen him make so far.
Nothing better than having a tight image, but not really being that tight.
Absolutely. You definitely have to use your opponent's perception of you against them.
More poker lessons from the fabulous Maria Ho from Golden Gates Casino right after this. We are in scenic Blackhawk, Colorado at the Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor. These guys know how to play poker in the Rocky Mountains. Let's get right back to the action.
And here's a look at the updated chip counts. Keith Love, not a big surprise, still in that top spot. Let's see if he could take this all the way. Ian Glissenfer, though, has moved up to second in chips with just over 3.7 million. Our short stack is still Ken Cordova, just grinding out that 11 big blind stack.
Blinds continuing on at 40 and 80,000. This time David is in the big blind. Alex, the young man next to him, wakes up with ace king under the gun.
And Alex, with about a 35 big blind stack, is going to make it 160,000 to go.
Ian is going to fold. We're over to Keith Love now. He lays it down. Richard Monroe. He's got what I call the Daniel Negreanu type hand, suited connectors.
And it looks like he is going to make the call here. And normally I would advise against that, against an early position raiser, but Richard has shown that he is really good at using his image post-flop, so I don't really mind him making this call if he has plans to possibly take it away post.
Well, and here we are in the one seat again of David. He's also got suited baby connectors with Walmart prices to see a flop, so he's going to go ahead and call.
3 players, ladies and gentlemen.
3 ways to the flop.
2, 5 players. Expectancies towards the flop, please.
And here comes the flop.
And the flop is for Jack Queen, all hearts.
4 Jack.
As you can see, Alex does have the King of Hearts in his hand. David has bottom pair of 4s, which doesn't do much on this board.
An all suited flop, usually an action killer. Let's see what happens here.
I'm expecting Alex to c-bet this and for Richard and David to just fold.
Decision for Alex. He is going to bet. Makes it 200,000. Over to Richard Monroe now. I can't imagine why Richard's going to play this hand, but he's going to. He's going to raise it.
And like I said, at least give him credit. The man has a plan. So far, his aggression post-flop has worked out for him. So why not try it again until somebody takes a stand? But unfortunately for Richard, this hand, Alex does have something that he's probably going to come along with.
He is going to go all in and just shut it down right here. And that obviously is going to be good enough to get Richard to lay it down. So, as you pointed out, Richard's been making these moves post-flop. That's the first time he's been kind of slapped on the hand for doing it. Let's see if that slows him down later on.
It'll be interesting to see now if Richard's going to shy away from his post-flop moves, but I can't ever criticize somebody who tries to win the pot. Button is on Kevin in seat 9 this hand. Blind still at 40,000, 80,000 with the 10K ante.
So far, the players waking up with rags as they pitch the cards back to the dealer. Here we go. Ken Cordova wakes up with mom and dad.
And with his short stack, I expect to see Ken move all in, but instead he raises half of his chip stack, which should tell the rest of the players that he is committed to going all in this hand.
Alex wakes up with ace 10.
And I think Alex is going to be putting him all in here.
You're exactly right. That's what he does. Action back to Ken. Like you just said, he put in half the stack. Might as well put the rest in. Maria, do you think the dynamics would have been different if he had just shoved right away? Do you think ace 10 folds in this spot?
No, I think given the fact that Ken only had about 11 big blinds here and he raised from the cutoff, it's a pretty standard situation for Alex to call him.
A little under $2 million in the pot. Ken Cordova needs it or he will be eliminated in 8th place. Let's go to the flop and see what his fate will be.
Well, I know Fred wants to prove that his mom and dad theory is correct, so I know who you're rooting for.
The flop is ace, jack, jack. No love for king, queen here as Alex pairs the ace, giving him top 2 pair. So Ken hoping to find a 10 for Broadway or running spades for a flush.
It's not looking good for Ken. The turn is a 9 of hearts, no help to him. He's going to need a 10 and only a 10 to double up.
The river comes a 7 of spades, and my king-queen theory goes down the toilet as Ken Cordova leaves us in 8th place. Congratulations on a nice run. At every stop on the HPT, we like to say hi and profile someone that we see a lot on the tour. At this trip in Colorado, we ran into Teresa Hemingway, who you might remember as the champion from this last event. We sat down with her to find out how life has been since her championship run with the HPT.
Hey, I'm Teresa Hemingway, and I'm the defending champion here in Blackhawk at Golden Gates Casino. I see a lot of people recognizing me, and it's flattering. However, sometimes I have to play like I know people all the time, which I don't completely know, but it's fine for the notoriety, and it has changed my life, and it's just a great experience. The HPT is awesome. I would tell people that haven't played HPT just to come try it. Anybody can win. You don't have to be a professional. I obviously do it as a hobby. If I can do it, anybody can, and I really encourage women to start trying as well.
We've got more final table action coming up for you from Golden Gates Casino and Poker Parlor. We'll be right back after these messages. You're watching the HPT.
Welcome back to the Golden Gates Casino here in Blackhawk, Colorado, just up the hill from Denver. We are 7-handed, playing down to 1 champion. Here is the updated chip count.
And as you can see from our updated chip counts, Keith Love has continued to stay consistent at this final table, but it looks like Matthew, Kevin, and Richard all have some work to do. They are all under 20 big blinds.
It's weird, you have $1 million in your stack, but you're under 20 big blinds. Shows you how many chips in play are here at the Golden Gates Casino. Over 700 players participated, giving us our 5th consecutive $1 million prize pool here. Poker's getting more expensive, $50,000 and $100,000, with a 10,000 chip ante is the price to play now.
And the button is on Dave this hand. Keith Love folds from under the gun.
Richard wakes up with pocket 7s and he quickly goes all in, and just like that, Kevin wakes up with ace king and he snap calls. And with that kind of action in front of you, these players are quick to fold their hands.
And I think that Richard did the right thing by shoving his 13 big blind stack with 7s. It's definitely the cutoff. I wouldn't shove 13 big blinds with any pair less than 7s there. And of course, Kevin is going to ISO with his 18 big blind stack with ace king.
The flop is 3 deuce deuce rainbow.
Richard's still ahead with pocket 7s. Kevin's still looking for an ace or a king to score the knockout.
The turn is a 4, which gives Kevin a few more outs. He picks up a straight draw. Richard hoping to survive and double up.
And the river is the 9 of clubs, and Richard's 7s is going to hold up for the double up. Now Kevin is in a really precarious position here. He's going to have just under 4 big blinds going into the next hand.
A little under $3 million in chips in that pot going to Mr. Monroe's stack. Action folding around to the 1 seat of Dave Goodfriend. He folds over to Alex, ace 8 suited.
And I'm sure that Alex is going to open up this pot from the cutoff with this hand. Makes it 200,000 to go.
Ian's button is only 10-8. He's going to have to lay it down. Keith Love folds. And now back to Richard Monroe. This time it's ace-6 of hearts. So he'll be going to this flop heavily dominated.
But as you can see from the way Richard's been playing, it's not the cards that dictate whether or not he's going to win the hand.
The flop is 6, Jack, 3, Rainbow. Richard connects here, hitting middle pair. He is out of position, so it'll be interesting to see if he bets his hand here or if he checks over to the young aggressor.
And he decides to lead into the pre-flop razor here. I think we can note here that Richard is balanced at least with his donk bets. He's led out on the flop with nothing, but now with middle pair, he's also going to lead out.
And you get a lot of information from a player here, whether or not they just flat call or raise, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I think that Alex thinks that ace high could still be the best hand here, and he's seen Richard lead out in this spot before, and he hasn't gotten looked up yet, so I think this is the time that Alex is going to look him up.
Action card on the turn. It brings an ace of diamonds, giving Richard aces up, and Alex hits top pair.
Unfortunately for Alex, Richard has 2 pair aces and 6s, and it looks like he's going to go for another bet.
And it looks pretty sizable, a 650,000 chip bet.
I think that's an interesting lead by Richard. I think that just on the off chance that Alex didn't have an ace in his hand, it would have been a good card to check over to Alex and hope that he represents the ace. But lucky for him, Alex does have an ace in his hand, so it's most likely he will be making this call.
Yeah, I thought that would be a good spot for Richard to check over. Like he fired one bullet and it didn't work, so he's going to shut down.
Right, so I think it's just worked out for him that Alex does have an ace in his hand. Alex makes the call of 650,000.
And the river is a harmless 3 of clubs. Now both players have aces up. Richard has the better aces up, and he is going to shove it all in the middle here. I think he just lost some value with that.
I don't think he's going to get a call here from Alex. Richard looked extremely confident when he shoved all in on the river, and I just don't think that Richard would bluff in this spot after Alex calls him on the turn. So if I were Alex, I would really give this hand some thought. It's very difficult to conceive that Richard could be bluffing in this spot. I think Alex is trying to make sense of it all, but he might end up getting stuck in this hand, unfortunately.
A call.
He is going to pay him off. Wow, I'm shocked to see that. I thought he was going to lay it down. Richard is going to show he's got aces and 6s, and Alex is going to lose a lot of chips here.
I think there was a combination of factors that should have led Alex to a fold, but unfortunately, he just didn't believe Richard that time.
Big pot is over 5 million in chips. Go to Richard Monroe in that last hand. You can see Alex, he's still shaking his head like, I can't believe that just happened. But the poker gods are on his side with this hand as he wakes up with pocket kings. He can make this look like he's steaming and just really raise big and get some action. And boom, here it is again. King, queen, baby. Although I would fold it right now if you...
And boom, King Queen is dominated in this spot. Oh, Fred.
Ian smartly lays it down. Keith folds. Over to Richard, who's just on a heater. He is going to fold. And now we are back to the 9 seed of Kevin Eister.
And Kevin Eister does not have much in his stack at all. In fact, one of his 4 big blinds is already in this pot. So I think that he's going to have to go with this hand.
He's kind of handcuffed here. He does make the call. We go to the flop, and the flop in this hand is 4, 10, 8 Rainbow.
Kevin's going to move in the remaining 2 big blinds there with a pair of 8s. Unfortunately, the stop and go with his stack isn't going to work, and it definitely doesn't work when Alex is holding kings.
Of diamonds, 7 of hearts.
Well, Kevin is way behind, but he does have some outs with 2 streets left to come. Let's see the turn.
The turn is a 3 of spades. Kevin is still going to need an 8 or a 7 going to the river to double up.
The river is a jack, no love for Kevin, and that is going to be the last hand for him at this HPT final table as he is eliminated in 7th place, going home with a little over $30,000. That's a pretty good weekend in poker in my book. Maria, once again, a final table from the Golden Gates Casino here on Blackhawk, Colorado does not disappoint. We have lost 3 players, with 6 still fighting it out for the championship. I gotta know your feelings as a professional on today's play.
I think that there's so much money on the line given the fact that this is $1 million prize pool. These players are really feeling the pressure of how much it is they're actually playing for. It's making the action kind of slow and steady to start and even a little bit hesitant. I would like to see all the remaining players pick up the pace because if they want to take home the first place prize of $236,000, they're gonna have to put the pedal to the metal.
The pedal to the metal is what the pro prescribes. We'll find out who takes down this championship next time on the HPT. Now, do you think you have what it takes to sit under the worldwide stage of the HPT? Well, then log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. We have plenty of them to choose from. For Maria Ho and James Larson, I'm Fred Bevel. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.